Welcome to Love Thy Selfies. I'm Melissa, and this is a podcast where self-love gets real. Not fluffy, not preachy, just human. Sometimes we'll go deep, and sometimes we'll laugh. But every episode will remind you of one thing. You're already enough. So grab your coffee, take a breath, and let's do this together.
Welcome back to the Love Thy Selfies podcast. So we are in week 3 out of 4 of the Weight Loss Truce Series, where I am sharing my personal journey through the first 6 weeks of taking a GLP-1 for hormonal support. Before I get into this, I want to say something clearly and gently. This episode is based on my personal experience and the research that I have done for myself. It is educational, it's reflective, and it is not medical advice. So if you are considering medication or making changes to your nutrition or your exercise routine, please talk to your healthcare provider. Or check out the link in my podcast description for Weight Care, which is a telehealth platform where I get my GLP-1 from. They have incredible doctors who will call you and answer any questions about your journey and whether you are a candidate for GLP-1s. So if you do qualify, then you can use my code to save $200 off your GLP-1 purchase. Is Melissa22858. Again, this will save you $200 off your first purchase. It is Melissa22858. So occasionally I share resources that I personally use and trust. Most of them are off of Amazon, and some of those may be affiliate links, which just means that I may earn a very small commission at no additional cost to you. Only ever share what I genuinely use or believe in. Now, let's really talk, because I've only been taking this medication for 6 weeks, and I've already noticed something that I cannot ignore. So there is a tone that people use when they hear you talk about taking a GLP-1. And sometimes it's subtle. You almost miss it if you're not paying attention. But once I started noticing it, I couldn't unnotice it. And I hear it in the comment section tucked between just work harder and you don't need that, or the weight's all going to come back on as soon as you stop taking this medication. I feel it in side conversations when someone lowers their voice a little and they're like, "Oh, you're taking that?" I see it in the headlines that frame it like it's a shortcut or like it's a scandal or like some kind of loophole in the system. It is rarely direct, and it is not really aggressive usually. It's often just a raised eyebrow or a pause that lingers a second too long, or quiet implications that I have done something questionable. So it's like they think that I've skipped the hard part of this journey or cut a corner, or that I owe the room an explanation for choosing support for my body. And underneath all of that, beneath the think pieces and the glances and the whispers, is the question I think so many are carrying silently in their chest, including me. Is this cheating? The question didn't come out of nowhere for me. It came from something deeper. And somewhere along the way, weight loss stopped being about health and it quietly became about my morality. Discipline became this worshipped kind of virtue, and hunger became strength. Suffering became proof of character. And I know that I absorbed that narrative so deeply that I just stopped questioning it. I don't know when this happened. It was along the journey. I mean, my weight loss journey started with puberty. So that was around 13. The woman who could restrict the most, or wake up the earliest, or do the most, track the longest, she wasn't just quote unquote healthy. She was admirable. And if she could endure discomfort without complaint, if she could override her hunger and push through exhaustion, that meant that she was quote unquote committed. So when my body didn't respond the way that the internet promised it would, the blame had to land somewhere. And for years, I put it right back on myself. And I told myself that I must not have wanted it bad enough, or something must be wrong with me, or I must have slipped or made a mistake somewhere, or maybe I don't have the willpower I need. The narrative that I had inherited never really accounted for hormone issues. It never accounted for insulin resistance, and it never accounted for nervous system dysregulation. It only accounted for effort. And if effort didn't produce the results, then I was the problem. So, of course, when I started considering medical support, it felt very loaded, because in a culture like that, the story shifts instantly And suddenly it becomes the easy way out. And suddenly the questions start coming in. Shouldn't you just try harder? Or should you try this? Or should you try this diet? Or can you cut this out of your meal plan? Couldn't you just try to do this naturally? People used to lose weight without medication all the time. There is this invisible rule underneath all of it that says if it wasn't painful, then it doesn't count. If I didn't suffer for it, then I didn't earn it. But the more I sit with that, the more I realize pain has never been a reliable measure of my worth. And it definitely isn't a prerequisite for healing. I have had to gently dismantle that belief system inside myself. Because I really do think a lot of us are carrying this without realizing how heavy the load is. There is no singular right way. There is no morally superior path to weight loss that earns me a gold star at the end of this journey. What there is instead is physiology. There's hormone balance, there's insulin sensitivity, and there's nervous system regulation. That is sustainable. And those things matter infinitely more than how much I have suffered along the way. So for me, having PCOS and insulin resistance has meant the playing field is completely different than a normal average human being. Insulin resistance means that my body is wired to store energy more aggressively and release it more conservatively. And when you add cortisol on top of that, which I'm a mother of 2 teenagers, that adds up, especially when I've been chronically stressed, when I've been under eating or overtraining or living in survival mode. That response gets amplified. I can track my macros and I can lift weights, and I have been. I can meal prep and I can hit all my steps, and my body can still feel stuck. And it's not because I'm lazy. It's not because I lack discipline, but because my hormonal environment matters and it is different than other people's. That's why I've had to reframe what this medication actually is. GLP medications do not replace discipline. They do not build muscle for me. They don't prepare my meals. They don't show up at the gym in my place. What they do is regulate the appetite signaling. They improve insulin sensitivity, and they help stabilize my blood sugar so that I'm not riding a spike and crash roller coaster all day. They address the physiology, the things that I cannot control. And when I frame it that way, it stops sounding like a shortcut and it starts sounding like what it actually is for many women, including me, which is medical treatment, medical support, medical partnership. And if I'm being so honest, this part feels so deeply personal because I am the woman who has tried everything. I have counted my macros until my brain felt foggy and exhausted. I have lifted weights and walked miles and felt stuck. I was getting up at 5 a.m. going to yoga every single day, and nothing was changing. I have cried quietly because my body didn't respond the way that everyone said it would. So when I say this next part, I am saying it to myself too. I am not broken. My body is not defective. My hormones matter. My insulin sensitivity matters. My nervous system matters. All of it is part of my body's story. And here's something that I don't think gets said out loud enough. Sometimes this shame isn't just external. A lot of times it's internal. Sometimes it's grieving the version of myself who believed that she could do it alone. And sometimes it's mourning the belief that willpower should have been enough. Sometimes it's loosening my grip on the identity of being the disciplined one or the strong one or the one who doesn't need help. When I first started considering a GLP-1, part of me felt relief, like this huge exhale after holding my breath for years. But another part of me felt completely exposed, like I was completely vulnerable. Almost like I was embarrassed, like I was admitting defeat. But the truth is, what I was really admitting was something so much deeper. My body finally deserved partnership, not punishment. It deserved support instead of constant criticism. And when that finally clicked for me, when I stopped trying to dominate my physiology and I started working with it, something inside me softened in a way that it hadn't in a very long time. I also think that this whole thing forced me to look at how much we glorify hard in our culture, like hard workouts, hard resets, hard discipline, hard transformation stories. Hard makes headlines. It really does. It sounds so impressive and it sounds heroic, but we rarely glorify regulated, We don't make viral reels about having stable blood sugar or lower inflammation. We don't clap as loud for consistent strength training or moderate calorie deficits or sustainable habits. Those things don't feel dramatic enough to be a headline. But steady is what builds real health. Consistency is what builds real health and makes the progress for you. Steady protects my metabolism. Steady stabilizes my hormones, and steady supports my nervous system. If GLP-1s help regulate insulin signaling and they quiet food noise, that does not erase all of the effort that I'm putting in. It creates a calmer starting point for me. And I am learning that calm is not weakness. Even though sometimes it feels like it is, calm is powerful. And when I really let that sink in, I arrive at something even bigger than discipline. I arrive at permission. I am allowed to make informed medical decisions with my doctor. I am allowed to treat insulin resistance. I am allowed to prioritize my nervous system instead of overriding it. And I am allowed to stop fighting a war that was never meant to be won with willpower alone. If I try GLP-1s and decide that it's not for me, that is autonomy. And if I choose to stay on it long-term under medical supervision because it supports my labs and my energy, that is autonomy. If I never took it at all, that would still be autonomy. My body is not a public debate stage. My body is not up for public debate. My worth doesn't fluctuate with my strategy. It does not increase with hunger. It does not depend on how much I struggle through this journey. I am not more virtuous when I'm suffering. I am not more admirable when I'm exhausted. And I am not less disciplined because I chose support. So that's why this series is called The Weight Loss Truce. It's not because I gave up. It's not because I stopped caring about my health. It's because I stopped measuring my value by how hard I was suffering to get the results I want. I don't know if you know this, but a truce does not mean surrender. It means that I stopped fighting myself. And for me, that shift has changed every single thing. So if I am speaking to the version of me who is still in the middle of this decision, the one who feels defensive about someone asking about it, or the girl who is rehearsing explanations in her head before anyone has even asked her questions, I want to pause and I want to say this gently. If that feels like you, that reaction makes a lot of sense. Of course it does. We have been conditioned to believe that our bodies are open for commentary. But I do not owe anyone a performance of hardship, and neither do you. I do not owe anyone proof of some morbid type of discipline. What I owe myself is sustainable health. It gets to be easy. This is health that supports my hormones, my metabolism, my nervous system, and my long-term well-being. There is no universal script. There is only this one question: what allows me to feel steady, strong, and safe in my body long-term? And whatever that answer is for you, whether it includes medication or lifestyle shifts or both or neither, you are allowed to have that. This was not me giving up. It was me choosing peace in my body, with my relationship with myself. And I was finally able to take an exhale and trust that this was going to work now because I have the support that I need, the thing that was missing all along in my journey. And if you are in that space too, I want you to know you're not alone. I'm right here with you, and I'm going to keep sharing my journey. So keep following along if you need more proof that this can be a beautiful part of your health journey. Namaste, bestie.
Thanks for listening to Love Thy Selfies. I'm Melissa, and while I'm not a therapist, I believe in the power of everyday self-love. So let's keep it simple, breathe deep, laugh often, and remember, you are already worthy of love exactly as you are. I'll see you next time.